On this episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show, I have the whole crew here, all the physical therapists and strength coaches, except for Mike Scaduto. All of us here doing a special episode on strength and conditioning and program design. The Ask Mike Reinold Show. Helping people feel better, move better, and perform better. Welcome back, everybody, to the latest episode of the Ask Mike Reinold Show. We're at Champion PT and Performance. Do we have everybody here? Is this everybody? Who are we missing?
Yeah, almost.
Oh, Mike Scaduto is not here. Typical millennial move. He's golfing today on a Thursday. Just throwing that out there. Whatever. Hope you see this episode. Corinne Paul. I feel like Corinne, come say hi. Come say hi. She's on the other side of the wall. She doesn't want to say hi. Everybody but Mike and Corinne are here. So this is kind of the crew at Champion. This is awesome. This is going to take a while. Dan Pope, Dave Tilley, Laney McCrean, you know those guys. Nick Esposito, one of our strength coaches here. Christy Zermulin, another strength coach with us here. Well, we'll do the students at the end. Kiefer Lammy, strength coach as well, and DeWesh Podell.
All my friends.
Everybody is here. So the whole crew is here. For the students, we need extra time because their nicknames are getting longer and longer every episode. But we'll start again down here. Nikhil Shaquille O'Neal Harani from the University of Kentucky. We got Drew Doobie Dudek from the University of the Belmont of College of Saints of Belmont. We're good. We're getting better every time. And then Casey and JoJo in the Sunshine. Casey, K-Cup, Kevin Coughlin from UMass Lowell. What an intro.
Power intro.
That's too much. We spend the whole, see, when we do these...
All right, guys, next episode, see.
we do the whole episode on introduction.
I'm claustrophobic.
What should we do? All right, next episode we're going to wear name tags, and you guys
we'll just flash.
You'll just have to watch the video, by the way. I like it, so this is good. I like it. This is a good crowd. I'm happy. All right, who's going to read first? So we have special episode. We get brought in the strength coaches because we consolidate a bunch of our strength questions that we get. We've been getting a lot of them kind of consolidated. We're going to talk a lot about programming today, right, Drew?
You got it.
That's right. We got it, Drew.
You got it.
Drew Doobie Dudek. Take it away, Doobie Doo.
Jake from Louisiana. Do you prefer to have upper and lower body splits, or do you prefer to perform total body training sessions with your clients?
I feel like a lot of these questions are going to be like, it depends, right? But so, all right, so what do you guys think, strength coaches? Upper body, lower body splits, or total body? Let's try to get some good input. Who wants to start?
Go for it.
Christy.
Well, it depends.
Ladies first.
Nail it, Christy.
I think it obviously depends on how many times they have to train, like what their time constraints are, like what their training schedule is, how much time they have to spend in the gym per day, like whether they want to be in here for an hour and a half. You probably do a total body workout. If they want 45 minutes, if I can be in here every day, you probably do a split. But yeah.
So the first factor you think about is their time commitment. I like that. That's a good one. Yeah. I like that. How about goals? I'll throw out that. Who wants to, maybe Dewesh, you want to hit that? So how does upper body, lower body splits and how would a goal impact that?
Yeah, so I think if a goal is to like attack, so if you want to focus a little bit more on lower body development, strength and hypertrophy wise, it might be a good idea to do like a lower body, upper body split, so you can dedicate a little bit more time towards building that. Whereas like full bodies can kind of work like everything upper lower core, energy system, all that kind of combined. So you can definitely choose like a focus and then say like, hey, I'm gonna hit this a little bit harder, and I'm gonna dedicate a little bit more time and effort to developing my legs a little bit more.
I like that. So good goal based. Nick, what would you recommend an athlete do?
Probably, figure out what sport they're in, where they're at in their season, and then base off what their goals are. If their goal is a baseball player to gain some weight or increase performance and stuff like that, then we'd probably, base it off practice schedule, throwing schedule, all that stuff. So we can probably see anywhere from two-day workout or 2 times a week workout during their in-season, maybe 3 times, then going into like a 4-day a week, 5-day a week, depending if they're in their off-season and they're trying to gain weight.
So that's a good point. So with the athletes, it's all about timing, right? So if you're only working out 2 times a week in season, would you do an upper lower body split?
Probably not on that one. I'd probably find the most that they need done to maintain everything, and then just make sure we're not making them sore for their performance on the field. Yeah, it becomes a little different, but you kind of, if you did that, you would only be hitting a muscle group once a week. I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can go off like hinge patterns, lunge patterns, knee dominant, hip dominant stuff, push pull, and then just kind of accommodate through there.
Interesting. Dewesh, what changes with youth? So if, let's say we have a 12-year-old versus like an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
sport, what do you recommend a difference between splits or total body?
Yeah, so I mean, if I'm getting like a younger athlete, I'm probably gonna have them less per week anyways. We don't typically get 12-year-olds that are training 5 times a week.
That's a good point.
They're probably here like twice a week, so I'm probably gonna get like full body workout on both those days. Just kind of hammer like some like the big basic movement patterns, just kind of expand on their movement library a little bit, and kind of attack it that way.
I love it.
Encyclopedia of Dewey.
I think too with the young kids, it's important that like their ability to train with intensity is so much lower that they can do full body more days in a week, and they're not going to get as smoked. Whereas like a college athlete, if they hit a hard lower body session, they're not going to be able to do the same thing the next day. So they work better with a split.
That's a good point. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but so for our athletes at Champion, most of our athletes, the older athletes there, we recommend 4 days training sessions so we can intentionally do those splits and they have enough recovery time and they're kind of getting each movement pattern really well. But with the youth, even if they're working out 2-3 times a week, then we can probably get away with total bodies because their capacity, they're not doing it. So Kiefer, what about adults? How do you do adults?
I'd say like general rule of thumb for adults, most times if they're training 3 days a week or less, it's going to be a total body workout. It might have like more of a focus on one thing versus the other, so one day might be a little bit heavier on the strength end for lower body and a little bit more endurance for upper body, but still total body. And then once they go over to like 4 days a week or anything more than that, then we split it up because again, it gives them more time to recover between sessions.
Nice, so tons to think about, right?
Yeah.
So I think everybody kind of brought up some good stuff on that one, right? Like, so their time commitment, right? Their sport, their in-season versus out-season, the timing of it, their age, their training and their movement age, right? Like, you can even put that into it, what they should be doing. And then, finally, like, is it, what's your work capacity or your intensity that you're putting into it right there? Lots of good stuff. Awesome. Who's next? K-Cup, Nikhil? Let's do this. Sorry.
Double
I thought it was
question.
K-Cup, my bad.
Yeah.
Do
Double
it,
question.
Shaq.
Jason from Berlin asks, how many days per week do you recommend your athletes train? And Sarah from Miami asks the same question about adults.
Dang it! So we just had to just answer that
All right, well,
question.
that's the episode.
This is where we don't prep enough right there. All right, so let's do it again. So athletes, how many times per week do we recommend? And adults, how many times a week? So Christy, you've a lot of sports in your life and stuff like that. How about we talk about that instead? What do you do in college? So collegiate soccer player, high level, elite level. I like that. Elite level, right? So she can't brag about herself. But high-level soccer player in college, right? How many times a week did you guys train? Man, this is a big question again because it's in season or off season. So off season, what did you guys train in college?
6 days a week.
So and how did you do that? What did you do on your days? Like how did you break up 6 days a week?
For the most part, like in the off season, we're training 6 days a week, and it's soccer, so we needed to dedicate 3 days to energy system stuff. We're playing, and then 3 days a week we're doing full body lifts. But again, it comes down to like what the strength coach thinks is the most beneficial for us at that time, and that's just what we had. Like for my freshman year, it was a little different as well. But as we kind of developed and kind of got to a point where we knew what we needed to dial in on to like get to the next level, we were hammering more strength, more speed, and stuff like that because we had the skill work that we needed.
Right, and your skill work took over
Exactly.
your energy systems
Right.
to an extent. So that's a whole nother thing is how do you combine it with that? So, all right, I mean, what about like Kiefer? Like, so our kids in high school, like that are in here, like let's say our upper level kids, they just started maybe specializing in one sport, right?
Sure.
Or maybe they're playing a fall, spring sport and they're using the winter to train. What do we recommend?
I would say for those kids, it's important that they take the best advantage they can of like their true off season when they're not playing as much. I would prefer that they train 3 or 4 days a week because once they get in season or they're more competitive seasons, if they're only going to get in once, maybe twice a week because their practice and games take up so much time.
So I'm going to make you pick one, 3 or 4. If they said I'll do whatever you tell me to do?
I would do 4 if it's true off season.
Okay, just to give more.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends a little bit which sport they're playing and how many days a week. Like if it's a baseball guy, how many days a week is he throwing and hitting? But if you have an opportunity to really take downtime, I would take advantage of it with 4.
I like it. Okay, good. Nick, how do you? So let's switch to adults now, right? Let's talk about not the 1% or less that actually want to come in here every day, right? Somebody brand new to fitness or something, or maybe they've been just like going to Planet Fitness or something like that on their own. What's the optimal frequency per week to train?
For adults, I like 3 times on that for that group, that 99%, just because if they have kids, if they've got other commitments, time becomes a really big issue. And then you're spending, you don't want them in, like, they got to drive their kids everywhere. Now it comes to where are they going to find that time to actually come to the gym. So sometimes 4 or 5 can be difficult for adults. So we kind of try to gear them up for that 3-day and maximize their time when they do come to the gym.
So compliance, right? Like you're gonna fall out of this. You want to have them have success, get some wins, right? And if it's inconvenient to come, they're gonna just say, well, I'm gonna give up. I can't do this. I like that. Dewey, is training once a week for an adult enough? Can you get anything from that?
I mean, it's tough to say, right? If they've got like an athletic background, if they're doing other stuff outside of the gym, right? So say they're like an endurance athlete, and they're doing enough training for that, and they just want to maintain some level of strength, they might get some sort of benefit out of one. But if you're talking like that 99% again that want to just get in better shape, one time a week's probably not going to be enough.
You're probably not going to
for
see
like
the
a training
gains.
effect.
Or it's going to take forever.
Yeah.
Right? If your primary goal is what, like fat loss or something, you're trying to drop
correct.
5 to 10 pounds. That's one of those things. It's like, well, 1's going to take forever, maybe not even work. 2's, it may work, but it's going to take some time. And you gotta probably do 3 days a week, and then energy system stuff like on your off days, kind of like what Christy said. So again, it's like I wish there was like a magic number we could just say to answer this question, but it so depends. But hopefully, I don't know, there's a lot of the thought process that goes behind it, right? Dan, we talked about this in a past episode, right? But like, how many, this is a fascinating tidbit for me, but the concept of just stretching, right? So we talk a lot about training, like we immediately think it's lifting weights, right? But it's not just mobility. Tell us again about that study with mobility, is the stretching concept. It wasn't necessarily how many days per week, it was like total minutes per week.
Yeah, so they looked at a bunch of different variables, and then it was 5 to 10 minutes was that sweet spot of static stretching per week. They also looked at the frequency, and it was funny because 5 days was optimal, and they looked at 7. It was actually a little less for 7. I don't know why. But 5-ish days per week, and then 5 to 10 total minutes was important.
That's crazy, right? So sometimes not doing it every day, right? So maybe doing your mobility 3 to 5 times a week may be better than doing it 7 days a week. It's crazy. And we learned that a lot about even like stretching way back. I don't even remember the year, like let's say mid-90s, but Bill Bandy's like original research on stretching was 30 seconds was a sweet spot, right? 20 seconds was less of an effect, and 40, 50, 60 seconds, it actually got worse. Right, so there is a diminishing return with those sorts of things. So something to think about, right? So it's not, I just thought that was impactful to kind of add to that. So, K-Cup.
All right, we got Mike from Texas. How do you determine when to perform high rep sets like 3x15 versus low rep sets like 3x5s? When do you know the person is ready for lower reps?
I like that. So manipulating set rep schemes. When do you know how to do that? And that's realized too for the strength coaches. You guys probably get this, but a lot of our people are PTs and rehab people that do this, and this is like a big concept for us. Like we're such a 2 to 3 sets of 10 kind of profession, right? We talk about that all the time. So, Kiefer, you want to start with that? I mean, so like, obviously you're not going to start training somebody with low reps, right? The part of the question I liked there wasn't necessarily was why do you go low reps? Right, I think we all know low reps have different qualities of muscle development and strength development. I think the part of the question I liked was when.
Sure.
So when do you make that determination?
I would say, so for most people, I would say we start somewhere in the middle. We start around that 3 sets of 8, 3 sets of 10, maybe 12 range. And I think that you start to progress to the lower rep ranges once they stop seeing progress at that rep range. So a lot of people for the first 4 to 6 weeks will continue to make progress. They'll continue to be able to go up in weight, or their soreness after the workout will be less in that rep range. And once you start to see that kind of level out, which is probably 4 to 6 weeks in, then you start to push their boundaries a little bit. So you go down to maybe 3 sets of 6 or 5, or maybe you go the opposite end of the spectrum and you increase the number of reps, so they're putting more challenge on them that way. So I would say it's, once you stop seeing the benefit from that, and then I think the second thing comes into it is what are their goals? Are you trying, is their goal to build max strength where you want to go down to sets of 6 or 5 or 3, or are they content with building a little bit of hypertrophy and a little bit of endurance, and you want to work upwards in the rep range?
Right. So one of the things I've picked up on a lot of adult fitness clients that kind of start too, so more on the adult fitness side, is they don't understand intent. And that's a big word, right? They don't understand intent. So if they don't know how to apply some max intent or a high level intent with their reps, and you drop it down to 5, they're gonna get nothing out of that because they don't know what that means. That means, heck, you better be pushing that a lot harder, right? So Christy, you do a lot of our group training here, right? And group training's kind of that world, right? Where a lot of it's like Metcon based and time based, but sometimes we have sets of reps. How do you, like, when you pick a workout that has lower reps, how do you articulate to them the concept of intent and, hey, you got to push yourself a little harder? Like, how do you get that message across?
I think it comes down to like knowing your clients too. I mean, I work with them enough that I know who knows kind of how to push it and who's happy just staying in that higher rep range. And for the most part, we keep it in that higher rep range. And then if I see a couple people that do want to push their strength, maybe instead of a kettlebell deadlift, I'll put out the trap bar for them, and we'll get them going. You know, putting some more weight on the bar. But again, I think it's just communicating like this needs to be a higher intensity, and if they're capable of doing that, then I'll give them the freedom to go, you know, try that out.
Yeah, if they don't, you gotta like abort, right? You gotta pivot and go backwards. You know, like it's.
And a lot of them are okay with that too. Like a lot of them are there for the metabolic benefits. Like they think of that as their cardio for the day. They don't come in thinking that they're gonna hit, you know, max strength in the group fitness class. So they kind of know what to expect. But again, if I have a couple people that do want that, I'll give it to them.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's a big education process too. Like, you know, I do some of the group classes too, and you get up there and they have sets of 6 on the workout, and you say, hey, like, you're not gonna feel like you get something out of this unless you increase your weight a little bit. They understand that like the purpose of it is to use a little bit more weight for each rep to be more challenging versus to make it this long, grueling set.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you know, just the whole concept of if you just did 5 reps and you feel like you didn't do anything, something went wrong. You need more weight or more reps in there.
Yeah.
And in the PT world, we've talked about this on past episodes too, but in the PT world, man, they are either so deconditioned or so weak or maybe neuromechanical inhibited somehow, where there's some inhibit.
That's the 4th episode. Should I be worried about something?
That's t-shirts. If anyone can design t-shirts, neurobiomechanical, that would be really cool. But like in our world, they're probably more inhibited than weak a lot of times, right? So we can linear periodize people for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? Like we can just keep going. So Kiefer said, you know, in 4 to 6 weeks, you know, once you've kind of maxed that linear kind of progression, you can change. I would say a lot of the rehab people could do that for months. I would say a lot of unfit adults could linear periodize for a month and just keep adding load to the bar over and over and over again. So that's probably another good variable that I kind of thought of while you guys were talking, was that it's probably also training age, right? So with training age, you probably want to do that faster, you know that type of thing. So again, to the answer to the question as to when, depends on a lot of these factors. So we got more? That was it? Man, time flies when there's 20 of us in the room, right? That is crazy.
Squad goals.
Awesome. Great episode. Good strength and conditioning questions. Again, head to MikeReinold.com, click on that podcast link and fill out the form. You can ask us questions. More great strength and conditioning questions. Anything you guys want to talk about, how Dan and Kiefer manage their beards in the mornings, we can talk about that. And Scaduto, how does Scaduto always have a 5 o'clock shadow? Always. He's not here, so we can trash him. He's the only clinician not here, but awesome. Anyway, thank you so much. See you on the next episode.